welcome to Retired People's Club. It's Saturday morning, it's the 13th of October, and in keeping with the usual thing for the 13th of the month, I had a little error at the beginning. We're going to sort that out because come, I think, 2 weeks' time, we've got some new equipment coming, and that will make these live shows much easier to do, and it will also give me and you a better chance of talking to each other, I hope. Okay, so off we go. Today's Retired People's Club is a bit of a topic. I've kept on a noisy piece of equipment so I can refer to it, and I'm just hunting about to get it back on my screen. There we go. I read quite a lot of odd bits of news, and I've got a couple of services set up so I get news that's relevant to older and retired people. One of the things that bugs me, and it could affect me, who knows, in the future, is that older and retired people are more vulnerable to poverty, I think, than almost any other group in society. What tends to happen is that we become, as I've said before, somewhat invisible. People do not see us. Terrible thought, isn't it, really? When you think about that and tie that up to lack of income, lack of appropriate income, if you're a retired person, you live on your own on a single person's income with no additional benefits, you're likely to get less than £700 a month. And for many people who rent property, the rental is, I don't know, let's say £500 or £600 a month. So that leaves you with approximately nothing to live on. Fuel costs in this day and age are monumental. Keeping even a relatively small flat warm and comfortable is going to cost you maybe £100 or more a month. If you're on a pension, a flat state pension of around £7,000 a year, paying £6,000 a year in rent, well, there's the rest of your income gone before you've eaten anything or drunk anything. It's a scary one, isn't it? And I'd like to find out more about poverty in retirement, because one of the planks of Retired People's Club is to bring real life to the people out there who don't necessarily live real life. People like politicians on 70 or 80,000 or more a year, and people in the higher paid brackets who tend to make the decisions about the lives of people in lower paid brackets. Getting political in Retired People's Club? Yeah, well, I think we're going to a little bit, because the reality is there are a lot of us pensioners out there. We all have a vote, and pensioners are the people who vote in this country. Young people don't see a lot of point, but we know that you can actually change things by voting. So, hey, let's start making waves. This thing about poverty and fuel poverty really does get to me. Apparently, huge numbers of people from time to time cut off their own power, both gas and electric, because they simply can't afford it. So what can we do about this? One of the things that I want to talk about on Retired People's Club over the coming weeks is about the way that politics works, and the way that politicians work, and the way that governments work with relationship to their population. One of the things that we always think we do as a population is we vote for a government that's going to look after us. But what we tend to get is a government that looks after the world's bankers and all the other people who prey on the lower levels of society. That's a thought for you. Okay, what are we talking about here? Well, we're talking about a government like ours. We have endured how many years now of Tory austerity, essentially to pay off World Bank debts and stuff like that, and to try and put ourselves straight with other countries. The reality is that what's happened in those years is that this government, probably other governments for all I know, this government has effectively cut back on the living standards of Britons to pay for a problem that wasn't those Britons' problems. Wasn't of our making, if you like. I don't know how to put this, but the reality is that all of the cutbacks, austerity, all of that stuff doesn't have anything to do with you and me. It's got to do with world bankers, it's got to do with governments who probably caused the problem in the first place, and it's got to do with the greed of people who can see themselves making an extra £1 million a year in bonuses if we suffer a bit. Do they care about us? No, of course they don't. So we're going to get into a little bit more politics, and one of the things I want to talk about very much now is poverty, fuel poverty as it affects people like pensioners and the young and unemployed and all kinds of people. So if you're a pensioner, if you're a retired person, I want to hear from you if you have issues with paying your bills, literally fuel poverty, literally food poverty, literally poverty. If you're a pensioner and you're hard up, I'd like to hear about it really. I mean, at the moment I'm okay, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be okay tomorrow. Interesting one, isn't it? So let's look at poverty as it affects the real bulk of people, as it affects UK pensioners. In some countries in the world, pensioners are well looked after. Not many, I have to say. In Denmark, for instance, pensioners are quite well looked after. In the UK, pensioners really suffer quite a lot. And in many other countries, there are very few, if you like, benefits to being a pensioner. In America, for the vast bulk of people, we all see all these glossy TV programs about Americans living in retirement towns and villages and stuff, but there are huge numbers of American people who suffer poverty whilst retired. So here on Retired People's Club, we want to know about poverty. We want to know if that affects you. Fuel poverty in particular. Food poverty, well, I'd like to know if you've ever been to a food bank in time of need. Many of us have. And let's get some interesting stuff going, because retired people, we're going to keep cracking this whip on Retired People's Club. Retired people can so easily become invisible, and we don't think we ought. We think that retired people like you and me should actually have a decent little life. We've worked really hard most of our lives, most of us, and in reality we deserve a little break. Okay, that's me. I'm Chris Gosling. I'm going to just press a few buttons and say to you, if you've got a story to tell in the UK about fuel poverty, about being hard up as a pensioner, I would love to hear from you. Get in touch with me on the Retired People's Club on Facebook. You can also use our email address, which is production@seriousleisure.co.uk. You can also come through to us on Twitter, Retired People's Club, and on YouTube, Retired People's Club. Come and talk to us and tell us about your situation. Okay, I'm going to press a button now. So, going to press another button. So, my name's Chris Gosling. This is Retired People's Club. We try and talk to you about the things that matter to you. Okay, I'll come back to you soon, and keep in touch.